Hi folks, an opportunity to wave the victory flag. Not a war victory, a battle victory. The war continues, but we need to celebrate this moment. It's very important. I always considered the process I'm going through as a part 1, part 2 process. Part 1 being the chemotherapy and part 2 the stem cell transplant that we were after. And first off, before I get into that, a big shout out and thank you to my family. Yes, I'll call them my family at St. Mary's Hospital. Without them, I could not have done this. They've been there every step of the way, dosing this triple therapy through 2 protocols, 31 triple doses, I believe, all the way from administrative, my oncologists, and the nurses back in the IV center. Back to the meeting this past Tuesday at Henry Ford with Dr. Jana, who is the expert, the guru on stem cell transplant. And she recommended for me the best situation, a stem cell transplant. Reason being that there's other factors involved that need to be considered, not just the cancer load. The chemotherapy in and of itself, particularly the Revlimid, one of the drugs I'm on, negatively impacts the stem cells, which would be trying to collect for the autologous stem cell transplant. So she thought, stop the chemo where we're at, finish cycle 5. My last triple dose was this past Wednesday. Finish off my Revlimid oral dose, which will be this coming Tuesday. The cycle ends on the 9th, but really after Tuesday, the last Revlimid dose, cycle 5 is done, and we are done with chemotherapy as we know it. That's 9 months of chemo, and she also factored obviously that in, is that I've been taking chemo for a very, very long time. Are we done with chemo per se? No. Actually, it's part of the stem cell transplant. I'm not going to talk about that today. I'll set that up. We have plenty of time to discuss more about what the stem cell transplant is all about. But I have a admit date already set, which will be August the 20th, and a transplant day, a reborn again day for me on the 28th of August, with all prep work done ahead of time. There's where we stand. Just to bring everybody into the reality of this, I am not a perfect case. In an ideal situation, again, as Dr. Jana explained, she would love to see my 11 gram per deciliter, remember, which I started out back in September, October, come down 90% and be like at 1 gram per deciliter going into the stem cell transplant. Obviously, given the situation, that's not the case. The reason being, and I've mentioned this many times when I've gone for the definitive assays and then reviewed by the oncologist, everyone has always said, Gary, great, your cancer levels are dropping, but slowly. Slowly, really because I have an aggressive form of the multiple myeloma. It's fighting hard as well. It's not quite coming down as nicely as the doctors would like to see. But that's just the reality of the situation. That might affect the outcome in terms of how long we can expect the cancer to stay depressed at low levels post stem cell transplant. But averages and things could go just fine. Anyway, that's just a little reality check on where we're at. And we have to be happy and excited to be going into the stem cell transplant. Puts us in a very good situation and sets us up for a really big knockdown against the cancer. So I'll talk more in depth about the stem cell transplant. And please, this should generate some kind of questions. Any kind of congratulatory comments will be welcome because we worked hard. You guys worked hard. And I thank you for watching and sharing and giving me your encouragement through this period of time. But we've completed a big battle. And to finish off the football analogy, overtime game that I started with, we have kept the ball since the kidneys got knocked out, drove down on our own, got to the goal line, and to add some heroics to it, put the kidneys back in the game. They actually scored the winning touchdown, which puts us in the next game of the stem cell transplant, which ironically is against the exact same opponents. So see how that goes. But anyway, that rounds out that analogy. Other aspects like the blood work I'm not going to talk about, and I'll mention them just so they get a little bit out of whack, because we'll be off now chemotherapy for a good month to allow my body to recover and the stem cells to regenerate. Hopefully the kidneys stay functioning well and no problems. And with the other organs, we're going to watch anemia with the red blood cells, white blood cells. I won't update the bone rehab, but on a monthly basis, because it's a longer phase process. So don't expect weekly updates on that. Be monthly, I'll throw something in on that. So anyway, there's where we are. Thanks everybody. Again, big thank you and shout out to St. Mary's. And I will continue to talk about the stem cell transplant for sure over the next couple of updates. And any questions you have, again, comments below. But we did a good job. We've knocked out a major battle phase. We got out of the dark woods of chemo many people never get out of. And we got on a wrong path. We were on a protocol 1. We had to get on a different pathway, protocol 2. But I'm happy to say we walked out into the light, and I can look backwards on the chemotherapy now and focus on the stem cell transplant, which is what we were after in the first place. Thanks everyone. Talk to you next week.